It's a mimer, but from Tafshin Lamed instead of Tafshin Lamed Aleph. And it explains actually, in some things it's actually similar. It's mashlim, some of what we learned in the previous mimer. And some things it goes off on a totally different point. ושמתי כדכד שמשותיך, now we'll make your windows from kidkhed. It's explained in our parsha. It says in the pasuk, that the name Havaya and the name Alakim are likened to the sun and its sheath. Shem Havaya nikra shemesh. This name Yud is called the sun. And it says V'zor chalachem yirei shmi shemesh tzedakah marpe b'knafeh. It says that those that are fearing my name, so the sun of tzedakah and healing, with the heels in its wings, will shine to you. So we find that also tzedakah is called the sun. So if you remember that idea, we said shemshutich, windows are called shemshutich. I believe I explained it in the last mimer. It's from the word shemesh, because it lets in the sun. So we find that there is shemshutich, that there's tzedakah is called shemesh, and kishemesh u'magen havaya lakim, that shem havaya is also called shemesh. So we have two things that are called sun. So that's what he says. V'zeu inyan shemshutich. It says your shemeshes. Again, it means windows, but we're using it over here in the idea of shemshutich, as in the concept of suns in the plural. Beis bechinas shemesh, two levels of shemesh, that we have these two levels that there is of shemesh, of the son of Shem Havaya and the son of tzedakah. And he continues to explain the two levels of sun. That there is Aleph Malmai Lamata. One is a sun from above to below, similar to what we had in the previous mind. And Beis Malmata Lamai, and the other one is from below to above. The idea behind this is the the idea of the sun being the level of tzedakah, who inyan hashemesh lamayla, it's shemalmata lamayla, it's the sun that's from above to below, and the idea of kitzdaka koi al klolos ha'inyan ha'klos kol ha'mitzvahs. Tzedakah is referring to all the mitzvahs in general. Shinyanam ha'alam ha'mata l'mayla. It's the idea of elevating from below to above halas on its tzotzim, because we're elevating, the sparks are embedded in the physical mitzvahs. That's the reason why the mitzvahs were given with physical items, with physical wool, film, physical parchment. How come? Why the physicality? What's the importance of the physicality on the mitzvahs? The reason is, and the idea behind this is to elevate the sparks on the physical matters from below to above. Through the inspiration from below, comes inspiration from above. The sun that's from above to below. What is the sun from above to below? The level of the sun of Yudke Vavke, from the expression that Havaya is the one that brings things into being. He brings into being all matters, meaning that's coming from above to below. He is bringing into being. It's a rate of Shem Yudke Vavke that's even higher than the name Elakim. What spheres did these two levels represent? The shemesh of tzedakah versus the shemesh of Havaya. Shemesh tzedakah koyal malchus. The shemesh of tzedakah is referring to spheres of malchus. The shemesh Havaya koyal zod. The shemesh Yudke Vavke is going on zeir ampin. Concerning this, it says, ושמתי כדכד שמשותיך. I will place and make your שמשותיך כדכד. And like we had also in the previous Maimer, להביא כדין וכדין, והיינו כדכד. The word כדכד means it should be like these and those. So, like these and those, it's the machlokes that we had in the Gemara about Shoyam and Yashvi. But here also we spoke about that Shemesh. It's not just Shoyam and Yashvi, but Shemesh has both ideas. It has the son of Havai, it has the son of Tzedakah. So there's again, Malmayla Matal Matal Maila, similar to Shoyam and Yashvi. And just like the Shoyam and Yashvi, we said in the previous Maimer, Laheva Kedain V'Kedain should be like both. Meaning it should be both the Mamayla Matal Matal Maila that Shoyam and Yashvi represent. The same thing in the Shemesh, which the Shemesh also represents, the sun also represents Mamayla Matal Matal Maila, it should be Laheva Kedain Kedain, it should be both. There has to be the joining of both avodas, from above to below, and from above to below to above, from below to above, and above to below. Until it becomes one word, both hinted in the word Kadkod, but even more so in our Maimer, it's all hinted in the word Shimshesayach, Shemesh, both types of sun. The sun that's from above to below, and the sun that's from below to above. Ubespheres, and in spheres, this is the level of Inyan Yichud Zeirampin and Malchus, because he said Shemesh is Zeiramp, Shemesh Havaya, Havaya Yud Kevov has to do with the spheres of Zeirampin. And Tzedakah has to do with the sphere of Malchus, because Malchus, like I believe he's going to mention soon, is less Lamagamok. It has nothing of itself. It's like a poor person, Philo La'ani, like the Melch said in Tillim. He called himself poor because he represented spheres of Malchus. So he has the level, he is asking for tzedakah. That's the level of Malchus. And when we have the yichud of the Shemesh Havai and the Shemesh of tzedakah, so then you're talking about the yichud of Zeirampin and Malchus. Well, after the completion and perfection of having these two levels together, the Malmayla Matal Matal Mail, the Yichud Zah and Malchus, we come to a higher level, like the Pasuk continues, that your gates will be like these flaming or like these brilliant stones. It's explained in the Torah. We also had this in the previous Maimer, the Sharayich Elu Nun Sharibin. That what's the gate, your gates referring to? It's referring to the 50 gates of Bin. Because and then the Pas continues, V'chol Gevulech La'avni Chayfetz, and all your boundaries are set out paved in stones that are desirous stones, meaning precious stones. The Torah explains. Shem Lamed Beis Nesivas HaChochma, it's referring to the 32 paths of Chochma. Why is it referring to the 32 paths of Chochma? The Inyan HaNesivas Shaykh Nagvulim. The idea of these paths have to do with boundaries. So when it says Givulech, it has to do with the 32 paths of Chochma. We also had in the previous Maimer, the two letters in the middle of the word, Lamed Beis, is hints at the Lamed Beis Nesivas HaChochma. That through these 32 paths of Chochmah, Magiyim, La'avnei Chayfetz, top of the next page, we reach the level of the stones of desire. The Chayfetz, Hu Inyan Ha'ava V'Chesed. What's desire? That's the idea of love, and something that's very lusted after and wanted. Where does this type of desire come from? It's rooted in the level of the delight of the soul that's even higher than will. How does one reach to the level of desire that's even higher than will? That we reach through the level of Chachma. Like it says in the Lashon of Kabbalah, Pnimius Abba, Pnimius Atik, the innermost level of Chachma reaches to the innermost level of Atik, which Atik is the inner part of Kesser, which has to do with desire and delight. It's even higher than the external level of Atik Yomin. When Nimsa comes out, this pasuk is talking about the praise of Yidden. Shall also love a year behem milus elu, that when Mashiach comes, they will have these qualities that we just now spoke about. They will have the level of Zohar Malchus, they will have the Chamishim Shari Bina, and they will have the Lam Beis and Sivus HaChochma, going all the way up to even Tainuk, the level of Primius Atik. Ubechlolus, and in general, Hen Gimel Mailas. There are three general qualities over here that the Yidden have when Mashiach comes. One is ושמתי כדכד, the next one is gomer v'sharayich gomer, and the third one is v'chol givulech avnei chayfetz. Ois beis. So over here is where this mimer, not like the previous mimer, is going to connect it with different parts of our parsha and also in other parshas. Beis. We can connect these great qualities that it speaks about in the Haftorah, about what's going to be when Mashiach comes, with what it says in the Parsha Shavuot, Parsha Re'eh, Medaber, Mishvachim, Shem Yisrael, that also speaks about the praise of Yidden. The Gab Boinus Parsha Gimel Milas, and also over there was explicitly stated three advantages and qualities. That's what it says, that you are a holy nation to Hashem your God, and you Hashem chose. So we're going to explain how in this pasuk there are three qualities that are explained. In the simple reading of the pasuk, it seems to be only two. Ki am kadosh lavai lakecha, that's one. But if we look at Rashi, and again, taking the Rashi a step further than the simple meaning in the Rashi, the Rebbe is going to find that there's really three levels. Rashi explains, Ki am kodesh atom, that you, what's it mean that you are a holy nation? Says Rashi, Kedushas atzmecha me'avisecha. The holiness of your own holiness is from your forefathers. And then v'oid, Rashi goes on to add this word v'oid. We're going to make a point of this later. Additionally, that Hashem chosen you. We could say that there are three qualities explained over here in the pasuk. Aleph kedushas atzmcha. One is the holiness of you yourself. There's first of all, there's the holiness that Yidden have as their own self. They are a holy nation. Habeis, there's a second thing, me'avisecha. This is a diuk of the Rebbe that the Rebbe examines in Rashi. May not be the simple reading of Rashi. Me'avisecha. There's another holiness that Yidden have from your forefathers. That's a holiness that comes because of the kedusha of the forefathers. And then a third thing, that Hashem chosen you. The idea of Hashem's choosing the Yidden is beyond the entire categories of reasons and explanations. Okay, as it's known, that the idea of free choice is rooted in Hashem's essence, that no cause preceded him, and it's beyond any type of form and advantage and quality. The Rebbe explains this in many, many places, that Bechira, the true idea of choice, does not apply in something that you would ordinarily like or want because of whatever advantage. In other words, choice indicates that you would like something beyond and above any qualities and advantages that it has. Based on that idea, that Bechira has nothing to do with the inherent qualities of the thing, or else it's not choice, or else it's just a logical thing that you are doing. So he says, so it has no connection at all with what it says beforehand, that you are a holy nation. That's why Rashi adds, additionally, and you Hashem chose. Yesh Mefarshim, that also explains what it says, that Hashem chose in you, Shaykh Li Nakdush the Yisrael, is connected with the holiness of the Yid. In other words, some Mefarshim learn that you have to read the pasuk like this: Ki am kodesh atal avay lekecha, because you are a holy nation to avay your God. Therefore, ubecha bachar avay. Therefore, Hashem chosen you. Comes Rashi and says, one thing is, another thing the Rebbe says is, Rashi adds the word may avisecha, from your forefathers. There's a kedusha that you didn't have additionally from the forefathers. Ve'oid, another thing, unrelated to the previous, is that Hashem chose you, because the choosing is not based on the fact that you have holiness, whether inherent holiness or holiness that's derived from your forefathers. The choosing is totally free choice. Concerning this, Rashi explains that's not so. It's something totally new. Because the great advantage of the idea of choice, there it's completely, totally unrelated to the holiness. This is also understood from the words in the Medrash. Tzaddik brings Neira Torah Yisrael Nedofim Bnei Yaakov, that Yidden are on the run because of the Goyim. Ubachar HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Yisrael, and Hashem chose the Yidden, Shanam, like it says, Ubecha Bachar Avaya Goyim. Hashem chosen you. Maybe Gam Divrei Medrash al Pasuk Velakim Yevakich on Nirvdorf. He also brings from the words of the Medrash that says that Hashem looks out for the one that's being pursued. So in a similar vein, Hashem shows you that you are being pursued by the nations. So from this is obvious, the choice of Hashem is unrelated to the holiness. It's just the opposite. It's because the Yidden are being pursued. The idea that Hashem chosen you is not connected to what it says beforehand, that you are a holy nation. It's rather a totally separate idea. And more specifically, could say that these three ideas of the inherent holiness, the holiness from the forefathers, and Bechira of Hashem, ושמתי כדכד. They're connected with the three concepts in the pasuk ושמתי כדכד. Kedushas atzmacha hu inyan avoda dechadchad yichud zon malchus. The Yidden's own innate holiness that has to do with the first part, with the joining of Zeir Ampin and Malchus, like we said, Shemesh Havaya is and Shemesh Tzedakah Barpe is Malchus. Yisrael Himchins Malchus, because we know Yisrael identified with Sfiras HaMalchus. Yeduah Knesset Yisrael is Sfiras HaMalchus, as it's known. Knesset Yisrael, the entire body, corporate Klal Yisrael, the entire entity of Yisrael is the level of Malchus. The Inyan Hakid Kedushas Yisrael, and the holiness that the Yisrael have, it's the drawing down of Zeir Ampin, Kutsha Brichu B'Malchus. Like we say always, Yichud Kutsha Brichu Shchinte. Zeir Ampin is the level of Kutsha Brichu, and that is coming down into Malchus. The idea of holiness from your forefathers, it's referring to the intellect of Chachma Bina. Forefathers, we know the level of father and mother. The Gimel, the Gimel in Mo is the father and mother. Chachma Bina called father and mother. So when we talk about the Kedusha that come from your forefathers, that's Chachma Bina. Nun Shari Bina Sharayich. The 50 gates of Bina, your gates that we spoke about before in the pasuk. The land based in the Sivas of Chachma, Avnei Chayfetz. When we said the 32 paths of Chachma, that's the level of the stones of desire. So that is the second level, the level of the holiness that comes from the forefathers, Chachma Bina. The Inyan HaBechira, the idea of choice, that the pasuk says, Ubecha Bachar Avayim, top of page 172. That its root is totally beyond all the matters that have anything to do, because desire and the light has no connection with anything. It's totally higher and beyond Seidrish Talflos. That all your boundaries are stones of desire. What's it mean, your boundary? That means hagvul ha'atzmi hamavdil ben Yisrael la'amim, the essential boundary that separates between the Yidden and the nations. Shedavke bohem bochar Kadosh Baruch Hu Mikol Ha'amim, that specifically in the Yidden is who Hashem chose of all the nations. U'mitzad Bechiras HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Yisrael, because of Hashem's choice in the Yidden, Yesh b'em kol ha'mailos the kadchod shemeshutich v'gomer ad lav nechefes. They have all these other advantages: their innate holiness and the holiness of the forefathers, the level of the kadchod shemeshutich, the tillstones of desire, bechinas pnimius harotzim v'atainug. They have even the most innermost will of Hashem and the delight of Hashem. Shalchein yesh gam etzlam inyan habchira b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu mitshebo metzma nefesh. In turn, because of Hashem's choice in them, Yidden also have a b'chira chavshis, have a totally free choice. They choose Hashem, and again, the choice of Hashem is not because of any logic and any reason, because then it's not choice. B'chira is something that comes from the etzem nefesh, something from deep down. Like the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. And the pasuk that says, a tefillah for a poor person when he will wrap himself up in prayer, and before Hashem he will pour out his speech, his talking, he will daven to Hashem. So he gives an example, that it's lifnei Hashem yishbach sichai, that there is the person that knows to direct only to Hashem, and not to get lost in any other levels or revelations. Like, for example, if a nation, people were given permission by the king to enter into his royal palace, and they could take whatever they want. And all of the citizens come and start searching for the different treasures and different precious items, and that's what they're interested in, and that's what they're focused on. That's just a connection that has to do, in other words, by intellect, what can I get out of it? That's like saying I'm connected to Hashem because of, He's going to give me parnasa, He's going to give me health, He's going to give me all that I need. That's a logical connection. If I do Torah mitzvahs, then I'm going to get such and such. But that's not the connection that a Yid has with Hashem. A Yid's true connection comes from the etzem nefesh, just like Hashem's bechira is beyond reason and logic, so too we have a bechira of Hashem that's beyond reason and logic as well, that comes from the etzem nefesh. Masha ein kein Yisrael, as opposed to Yidden, boichrim ba'Hakadosh Baruch Hu atzmai, they choose Hashem himself, like there was a smart person over there from the people that said, I don't want all these treasures, I just want to have the king myself. The lefnei Hashem yishbech sichai, that's why it says, before lefnei Havai yishbech sichai, he pours out his speech before Havai, before Hashem himself. I don't want all these baubles and other types of tchotchkes over there. This is what they're looking for, to even become completely one with the king himself. This is also why it starts off with the idea of tefillah la'ani kiyatov. Shezo in tefillah, the whole idea of tefillah is from the word binding and tying up. Miloshin hatoifel klicheres, like Chassidus always brings down, that tefillah is from the word throwing pottery, meaning throwing together mud and earth to be able to bake it into one solid piece. The same thing, tefillah is from the word the bond that a Yid has with the Eibishter in such a powerful way that he's only interested with the Eibishter himself. That's the bechira that comes from the essence of the nefesh, because this is all comes from the gilui of Hashem's bechira in the Yidden, so it brings out as well the bechira of the Yid in the Eibishter in return, that the bechira is from the etzem nefesh itself.